How's it going, everybody? We're going to do a little bit of a vlog style thing here today. This is my main gaming slash TV viewing. You see the TV is up here. This is the case is custom made. It's all made out of aluminum. I brazed it together myself and I polished everything to a mirror finish. The reason for this video today is I bought this motherboard and the processor and the M.2 drive. I bought all of this back in October, so this thing's been in service since then, and recently the motherboard has died. Essentially, I was getting these errors for the LAN controller, some sort of a LAN controller failure. It's either corrupted or incorrectly configured. And it's been going on. I spent about a good 3-4 hours with it yesterday trying to figure this whole situation out, and it ended up with a situation where it no longer will boot. Here's what happens when it boots. Turn it on, all the lights, the fans are on minimum speed, you can hear the pumps are running, and we get 00 on the post code, on the post LED indicators. Basically that's as far as I can get it to go at this point. It no longer boots up, it no longer runs. Believe it or not, this motherboard is geared towards extreme overclocking for the LN2 guys, the liquid, the nitrogen guys, and I haven't overclocked a single thing. These are two R9 290X graphics cards, and they're terrible overclockers. I haven't even bothered with overclocking them. You can see there are two of them in there. It's the 6700K CPU, you can see down in there, and 16 gigs of Corsair Dominator Platinum at 3000 megahertz. You can see I've only got the one 8-pin connector in there. I don't even have the extra 4 pin in there because I don't need that extra power. There's another 6 pin down there for the PCI Express slots to give them extra power, but I'm not overclocking the graphics cards. Cooling wise is great because I have, these are, you can kind of see it sticking out right here. It's a 360 radiator, but there's two fans on them, and what I did was I took the stock plug from the air coolers, the stock fan coolers from the graphics cards, and each of these, one of them is running off of one card, and the other one is running off of the other card. That cut down on a lot of cabling running, so I just have them here. I have one solid state drive for storage, and then I have my HyperX Predator 240 gig M.2. It's a PCI Express M.2. But basically I'm going to be doing a teardown of this because the way that this thing is built, you don't have easy access to the back of the motherboard. And that's where the product and serial numbers are, and MSI needs those in order to do any type of RMAing. I've already done all the necessary things. I've switched the M.2 slots. I've gone and taken the memory one at a time, all 4 of them, and gone through each DIMM slot. The exact same thing happens, just postcode 00. If I clear the CMOS, I can get 0D to display on there, which that doesn't help either. What else have I tried? I've tried a whole bunch of other things. It's all crazy in my head right now. But basically I'm going to be doing a teardown of this. You're going to see where the reservoir is. If you can see up here. See, here's the inlet to the pump, which comes up here, and the reservoir is up here, which is the entire underside of this thing. It's a reservoir I built myself. I'll leave a link in the description. But I've already done a video on how to build your own reservoir. I use the exact same method for this, and this reservoir holds an entire gallon of water. It's all up top here. Don't mind the glass needs to be cleaned. But if you can see, we'll take this off. Take the speaker off here, and if we lift up this glass piece, there's the reservoir. I've got a fill port there and another fill port over there, and you can see you got little smudges I gotta clean off this reservoir too. But I'm gonna be taking this all apart. I'm gonna show you guys more detailed close-ups of all this stuff. So let's go ahead and start tearing it down. Be back in a minute. guys, here we go. A little bit of a close-up on everything what's going on here. The reservoir is off. It's gone. It's actually over there chilling. I want to give you a close-up of what I've got going on in here. Here's my motherboard. So you have one pump here. This one comes in from the reservoir to the pump and then exits into the radiator and then across into the this is the EK monoblock. This covers the CPU and the power regulators, voltage regulators, and then from there it exits and returns to the reservoir. Same thing over here, goes into the pump, out, into the radiator, along here, into the graphics cards. I have them in a parallel configuration because it looks cooler, and it's what, 1 degree you're losing? Oh no, quit crying. And then exits back into the reservoir. Now I got this EK monoblock here for the reason that the factory heat sinks, they were getting way too hot for me, for my, from what I'm comfortable with. So I got this monoblock. They get hot because this is a 16-phase power delivery motherboard. It's designed for extreme overclocking, like the liquid nitrogen guys. They really like to push things. If you look up here, it's got your regular 8-pin power connector for the CPU, plus an additional 4. That's so you can crank even more voltage into it and get more of an overclock out of it. And you can see down here, there's another 6-pin power connector. That's actually for extra power to the PCI Express slots, so you can push more voltage into your graphics cards. Now, I don't overclock these graphics cards, first of all, because they're not great overclockers to begin with. Plus, I haven't needed to, and I'm not overclocking the CPU, because 6700K runs at around 4 gigahertz and turbo boost to about 4.2. So why would I need any more than that? I watch television and play video games. You don't need any more than that. Plus, I didn't buy it for overclocking. I bought it for the color scheme. If you see, the motherboard has this cool silver color to the PCB, and even the factory heat sinks have this silver flake paint on them, and it looks really cool. And as you can see, I went with this whole black and polished look. You can see the aluminum panels on the inside. I made all of this myself. It's all been polished to a mirror finish. You can see it's kind of fingerprinty. And then everything has dark side UV LED strips. For example, I don't know if I can get this in here for you guys, but if you look at the graphics cards, these are reinforcement brackets, completely unnecessary because I've got the the water blocks and it's sitting in a vertical position. I have them in there because if you see, you guys can see that up in there. Let's see if I can focus in. Is it still recording? There are LED strips up in there, so that way when the computer turns on, they shine down, and I have a black UV dye in here, and it lights it up. And both of those come here, and they're all plugged into this fan header down here. That's how dark side LED strips typically work. As you can see here, actually, you know what? I'll take you guys over there and show you. Come on. Here's the reservoir as seen from underneath. This is the 1-gallon reservoir. So you have an outlet into the pump. The returns in there, and there are dark side UV LEDs all the way around. That lights up the entire interior of the case. And you can see these LEDs. They come with it's just a very short wire with a 2-pin connector, and I have an extension on both of these, and they run into a 2-way fan splitter with a fan connector on the end, and I just run these off of a fan header. It's easy, that you don't need any extra lighting controllers, so there's less cable to manage and worry about, and all you do is you go into your BIOS and set that fan header to full speed ahead, or even if you wanted to, you can have it change with some sort of temperature so that the intensity of the LEDs turn up and down depending on the temperature of whatever you have it set at. These LEDs are actually intended mostly for modders, because it only has this much of wire on it. You can even get these without, with a little bit of wire with no connectors at all on it, so that way you can do everything yourself. I just decided to go with this route because they were available and they were easy, and they're already sleeved with some really nice. If I can get this to focus in on that, you can see it's got some really nice black heavy weave sleeving. That's the reservoir, holds an entire gallon. I kind of cheated on this one. These are actually cable extensions. I have not yet sleeved any custom cables for this build yet, mainly because the power supply, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret here. This is kind of taboo for me as well, but if you look underneath, there's my cable management. Oh my god, what a mess. Look, I even have my storage drive just sitting there. All the way back there is the power supply, just kind of chilling on the floor. Don't worry, the fan is facing up. I haven't yet decided how I wanted to mount the power supply, but now that I have the CNC machine, I could actually make some aluminum brackets. I was actually thinking of mounting it, elevated on the back side here like this, and then have the cables all, running down underneath and back up. But I was in a pinch, and I didn't want any, colored cables, so I just bought these. These are a Bit Phoenix. They're actually very, very nice. They're actually really cheap. These were anywhere from $8 to I think $12 was the most expensive one for the 24-pin. This is actually cloth sleeving. It's not plastic. So they are and they're white, so they are kind of finger, dirt kind of picker-uppers. But they're really nice. They got me through in a pinch. And maybe tearing this whole thing down will actually, give me the kick in the butt I need to actually get moving on a proper power supply mounting and custom cables. But that's that for the close-ups. I am going to go ahead and finish removing this motherboard, get it out on the table, and we'll disassemble it, and we'll check on those CPU pins that MSI wanted me to take a look at. So, back in a bit. Let's hear some more music. This is the moment of truth. This is what MSI wants to know. If there are any bent pins, under here, I have no idea how that could have possibly happened. I have had other people, a buddy of mine had an MSI board, and everything was perfectly fine, and out of nowhere it stopped working, and it was because of bent pins under his CPU. This thing has been put in and has never been removed. It's been here since October of 2015. And everything has been working completely fine. So how pins get bent after, 8 months now? I have no idea. You would think that a bent pin would show itself almost immediately, but let's find out. This is the first time this has been ever been removed. 6700K out. The bottom, nice and clean. Let's take a look at the CPU socket. See if we can kind of focus in on here. And there are no bent pins. Nothing. Get another angle because the pins are all bent in different directions. Oh, come on. Okay, different angle. No bent pins. It's a socket 1151 with Skylake 6th Gen Intel CPUs. Let's see if we can get this to focus. Intel. There we go, 6700K. So, this is what MSI wanted to know. MSI, there are no bent pins. That's a real shame that you guys aren't even gonna see this, see everything until this is actually finished, because this is also my editing rig. Here you can see these are all the power phases. Let's go ahead and take this off. Let me see. Gotta put the cover back on that. Here you can see all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 of the guys. Get them off of there. Like I said, this board is set up for extreme overclocking. Here's a better shot of that 6 pin that I was telling you about. This is for extra, to add addition to supply extra power your PCI Express slots, so you can push more voltage to your graphics cards. It's got the that armor stuff on there, which is more of a bling thing for me, but I'm alright with that. It fits, it suited my build perfectly. I've got the HyperX Predator. This is the, it's upside down, 240 gig. So here's the Corsair Dominator. DDR4, 3000 megahertz. Not a single thing has been overclocked. This is actually a cool little feature. I like this thing. This is an overclock button. This is for a hardware overclock. It's actually a dial that you can turn into specific positions. And you push this button, and now your CPU is being overclocked on a hardware level. There's actually 2 lights right here. If I can get a zoom in on that, as I can. One says software SW, one says SW, this one's HW, software, hardware. So if you're overclocking via software like the MSI stuff, or if you're overclocking on the hardware, like say if you turn this, you know, and then you hit the button, the hardware button will light up. These are all preset. You can actually go to the BIOS and change them yourself. This is the BIOS switch. This thing has dual BIOS. This is primary. This is secondary. Both of my BIOS were doing the exact same thing. Even after flashing them with the latest, you flash it, it reboots, and you just get the 00. This is actually another cool feature. See if I can get focused in on that. Come on. Come on. There we go. This is for your PCI Express lanes. You can actually turn them on and off, 1 through 3. So let's say, for example, I was having a problem and I needed to pull one of my graphics cards out. You can see that I've got the hardline tubing set up, and it wouldn't be all that easy for me to just reach in and grab one and pull it out. So what I could do is I could say turn off PCI Express lane number 2, which would be this one, and then I would only be running off of this graphics card. This PCI Express would be completely shut off. There'd be no power to it. And if it worked, then I know that I've got a problem with this graphics card, whether it be not seated right or the card itself. But I can turn them on and off. This is a feature that I specifically looked for. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe there's another one somewhere right here. 5 fan headers. They're all 4-pin PWM for your, individual fan controlling. What does this need on this thing? You can get a better look at the color scheme. Zoom in. It's actually this is kind of a board that will only fit like a certain number of builds for if you're going for a color scheme. This right here is the tracer, and it separates the audio portion of the motherboard and it lights up red. However, red is not something that I was going for, but you can go into the BIOS and disable that, which was a really cool feature I liked. It's got not one but M.2 slots. You can fit up your full-size M.2s. You can put 2 of them in a RAID configuration. We already looked at the power phases. 8-pin plus 4-pin and another 6. Oh, here we go. Here's another feature. This is... Hold up. Alright, hang on. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I was just getting a little bit nervous with this socket being open like that. There's another little cool little features on this side here. This is for power testing. The motherboard comes with these neat little probes. You can plug them in here and you can check voltages for a whole bunch of different things. Your CPU, GPU, your memory, a whole bunch of little things. You can use these little pins here and a voltmeter. You can plug them into them and you can actually check all the voltages for all the different things. Say you're having a problem or something. And this connector here, this is actually a neat little thing. The motherboard comes with this cable, plugs into there, and then it has this neat little, we're calling this the OC dashboard, overclock dashboard. The other end of the cable plugs into this. It's got some double-side tape on it so you can mount it somewhere. This gives you a lot of cool little features. Like it's got a a little reset button here. Let's see if we can get a little better focus here. These pluses and minuses, these are for bringing up the clock speed of your CPU, bringing it up and down. There's a reset and a power button. There's a this is a BIOS button. Basically, it'll drain everything out and reset your BIOS. This is for raising voltages on something else. Oh, I'm sorry. This one here is for your base clock, so you can raise and lower your base clock. And then this is for your ratio, like your your CPU ratio, raising it and lowering it, all on the fly while the thing is still running. This right here is the slow boot switch. It's for, again, those LN2 guys, the liquid nitrogen coolers. Basically what you can do is you can flip this to the slow position, because there's when you're using the liquid nitrogen, your CPU is going to be so damn cold that it's not going to be able to start. So what this slow button does, or what some of the guys, they actually use a propane torch to heat it up, enough so that way they can get it started and start pouring their with their liquid nitrogen. This is a slow boot button. It basically downclocks everything to the slowest possible, so that way it'll slowly start up and start warming up, so then you can start doing all of your overclocking and all that. And this is a fast boot button, which if anybody's using fast boot in their BIOS, yeah, you should probably disable that. But this is a button for on the fly, so you can just fast boot. It's a really neat little feature. I don't particularly use it. I don't have anywhere to mount it in the case. Plus the cable isn't actually even all that long. It's maybe about a foot. I read that one of the reasons that they did this is because some of these things used to be on their boards, but they were so close to the CPU socket where they've got their nitrogen pots that the buttons were actually freezing and they weren't working. So this was what they did to resolve that. You know, they gave you that, and if you even wanted to, you don't actually even need the cable. This will actually plug right in. See if I can get that on there right. That actually plugs in right there like that, so you still have access to your voltage reading pinouts, and you have all of your buttons. So that's actually neato. Unless you're running in an open air case and you like to overclock on the fly, like you're not. I need more frames per second. Okay, well let's increase the CPU ratio. Now I'm at 5 gigahertz. Excellent. But it's a neat little feature that it comes with. It's got a, you know, your USB headers. It's got plenty of SATA express slots. However, if you are using an M.2, depending on which of these slots you're occupying, or both, in your RAID configurations, it actually disables some of these because, you know, it's taking bandwidth from these into there to get to your CPU. And also, while I was grabbing that, I grabbed the cover, I also grabbed, so you guys can get a good look at this too. This is the stock heatsink for those power regulators. Get another focusing on that. There we go. I wonder if I can get it on the camera. There you go. You can kind of see it. It's like a metal flake type coating to it. Focusing back in, and this goes on right there like that. So if you didn't have that mono block, this is what the board actually looks like with the factory heat sinks. Like I said, when this thing was running, when I had these on there, this thing was running way too hot for my comfort level. Like I could put my hand on it and I'd have to like, ow, ow. So unless you have adequate case, you know, case airflow through your case, then these should be okay. However, I went and I bought this. This came out within like a day or two of this board being released, and I couldn't believe it, but it was like 70 bucks for this. Like this thing is gorgeous. Like I can't wait till I'm at the level where I can make stuff like this. But this is just absolutely gorgeous. There was a lot of work put into designing and making this thing. But it goes right on there like you saw, replaces this, and that actually brought the temperatures a lot further down. My temperatures, even with only having 2 fans for 2 graphics cards and then the 2 fans for the CPU, since my reservoir holds such a massive amount of water, you know, the more liquid you have in your loop, the better. Because the more volume you have, the more heat can be removed, and that thing holds an entire gallon of liquid, so that's way more than anybody would possibly need. But that's going to sum it up for now. I'm going to go ahead and start the RMA process for this motherboard, and then we will come back, and hopefully the next time you see this, it will be back in its home and I can actually edit this video. So this is past Dennis. See you next time.